Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for being here. Also, and how sweet. Thank you for the coffee donation to my wife, beautiful Miss Nation. That's the first time she's ever did that. I suspect she was trying to get a reaction, but baby, if you're watching this, even on the replay from work, thank you very much for for doing that. I'm sure I'll buy you a drink at some point. So Ukraine is falling. We need to talk about that this morning, folks. Now, here is the deal. When the invasion first took place in Europe, people were hound dogging all over it, man. They were bird dogging. And I told y'all at that time, I said, I'm going to cover it periodically when there's something to actually talk about. We're not talking about planes flying every single day, war's war, right? When significant things happen, we're going to cover it here, Prepper Nation. So, Ukraine is falling. Make no mistake about it. So, the Ukrainian military, just as recent as this week, they've started using catchphrases and key terms when they're releasing to their media, to the world media, etc., social media. Keywords like Russian tactical success. Instead of saying, "Hey, they took some ground. Hey, they knocked us back. We had to retreat." They're wrapping it up, and all countries do this. I'm not picking on Ukraine, but I'm saying Russian tactical success, and now they're using the term ongoing defensive fighting. Which is a fancy way of saying we're on our heels. We're on the ropes. We're taking hits at this point. We're totally in defensive mode and just trying to stop the blows from coming. So Russia is gaining ground, albeit very slowly and at a high cost, which we know, right? But they are gaining ground. And that's very important to mention because Western media typically says, well, there's static warfare or it's trench warfare or it's back and forth. Western media and the Ukrainian media is now admitting, all right, they're taking land. They're taking, 100 yards here, 100 yards here, half a mile here. They're pushing in further and further. Um, and to combat this, Ukraine passed a new law, or they introduced a new law, I think last week. It's set to go into effect where they drop the conscription age from 27 to 25. They their military now has the power to freeze bank accounts. So in other words, if they think that you are, even if you're not in Ukraine, if you're in nearby Poland, for example, they can freeze your bank account if they think that you have left Ukraine trying to dodge the draft. It allows convicts to serve. And they keep making this parallel. Well, Russia's done this in the past. Technically, yes and no. Russia has allowed convicts to fight, but it's been through a third party. They were mercenaries, if you will. This is the Ukrainian government directly drafting or allowing, I should say, convicts to serve, and they're expecting up to 20,000 convicts to sign up to serve with the agreement that if they survive 6 months on the front lines, they would receive a pardon at that point. Looking at the statistics, not many Ukrainian soldiers are lasting 6 months, nowhere close to 6 months on the front line. So, cannon fodder is basically what they're looking at. And again, to be fair, this is what Russia was doing via the mercenary groups and things. They knew these folks were cannon fodder for the most part. Poland has also agreed to start deporting. This is huge right here. Deporting fleeing Ukrainians who got out of the country, conscription age men who just didn't want to fight this war for whatever reason that fled to Poland. Um, they're going to deport them back to Ukraine, and they're estimating this is going to give the Ukrainian military 371,000 men who, let's be honest, they don't want to fight. All right, you're not going to get a lot out of these. They're going to fight maybe 5 to 1 compared to a soldier that actually wants to fight. But this is problematic because when Poland agreed to this, there were several NATO members that said, we don't know how we feel about this because political asylum, right? On one hand, illegals are flooding countries under the guise of political asylum. We need asylum. We need to basically squat here because, again, our home country, wherever that may be, whether it's a lot of folks from the Middle East, for example, are in Europe now, and they're claiming France is overrun, Germany's overrun, and there are others claiming political asylum. We can't go back there because there's war. Well, they're saying that's acceptable. They're saying the United States. Matter of fact, Japan's been called xenophobic recently because they don't want to take these asylum seekers. But in the other hand, now Poland is saying you can't seek asylum here if you're running from this specific war. You need to go back, son, is what they're saying. So it's problematic. Just kick out a few numbers very quickly. Global aid. This is global. This is the United States and its allies have sent $278 billion in direct funding to Ukraine during this war, this conflict, special military operation, whatever you want to call it, right? 120 or so, the number's kind of sketchy on that, operational fighting aircraft have been put together by different countries and sent, older gen fighter planes and stuff. Over 120 have been sent to Ukraine. 321 albeit stripped down tanks have been sent to Ukraine. And still, Ukraine is falling. And so we need to talk about what's really going on here, okay? Because you would think with all of that funding, with all of that hardware being sent over there, Russia's basically fighting the entire world, which is why they're gaining very slowly. Or most of the world, not the entire world, but most of the world right now, and has been for several years. They've been in the corner of Ukraine. We got you. You know what I'm saying? It's like they have this little boxing reference here. Russia's standing over here by themselves in the corner, and then Ukraine's over here, and they got like a 50-person team, cut men, and all this in the corner, trying to gear them up for the next round. So, what is really going on, though? There are a couple of things. First, and I want you to hear right here at Prepper Nation first thing, okay? Because what is going on, number one, is they are laying groundwork for the begging. I want you to hear that right here first on Prepper Nation. Ukraine will beg and plead for more funding, military hardware, and they will do it very soon. When I first saw, these articles about Ukraine falling, one thing that I noticed in particular is it hit left-leaning media first. I said, this is strange. Why is conservative media not talking about this? Why is it just left-leaning media? And then the light bulb went off because leftists are behind the war effort. They're totally okay with funding a war in Ukraine, whereas a lot of conservatives were kind of tired of watching our money get sent away, right? So they're priming the leftists first, and then you're going to begin to see a lot more of this with the right, the mainstream media on the right wing. But I promise you, we're getting ready to see urgent need for another massive spending bill, another massive aid package. I don't know what they're going to ask for now. Long range missiles. Maybe they need destroyers. Hey, we need to borrow a couple of aircraft carriers. I don't really know what else you can ask for at this point, but the begging is about to begin once again by Z-Man, who really is the greatest grifter of all time when you get right down to it. And number two, the second thing that is happening, I think, y'all let me know what you think. Committing America deeper into war, or wars in our case, because we're caught up in several, makes the November election even more chaotic, right? So if we begin to hear stories about, oh my God, Ukraine is falling, Russia's taking Ukraine, if that starts to take over the headlines in the media cycle, then people are not thinking about the stuff over here, right? Like inflation, like we were talking yesterday about banking collapses, restaurant collapses, the hospitality service in general. They're not thinking about real issues here in the United States. Drug epidemic, homelessness, barbarians at the gates. We could keep going on and on and on. Uh, we'd be here all day, though, son. People need to be focused on that. How do you remove their focus from the important issues? You move them over here and you start dropping headlines that say Ukraine is falling, right? So this accomplishes two things. It's an election strategy, I believe, that's personal opinion, and it also sets the groundwork and the framework for another massive spending package being sent over there. Ukraine cannot win this war unless NATO gets directly involved. I realize that NATO is already there. I realize we've got special operations working on the ground. But what I'm talking about is no-fly zones. I'm talking about NATO aircraft. You know what I'm saying? Like getting directly involved. Here are some more Abrams tanks, but these have U.S. soldiers inside of them. Complete boots on the ground. You know, without that happening, Ukraine cannot win. But listen, either way, Russia wins. And there's a hot take for you. Either way, all right? So either they take Ukraine and Putin's going to stand back and he's going to say, hey, this is what we were trying to accomplish. We did it. You know, these men and women who fought and sacrificed will be remembered forever is a total victory. Okay, that's number one. Number two, even if he loses, he has not, he said from day one, this is a special military operation. So he can get to a certain point, gain enough ground, and say, we accomplished what we set off to accomplish, even if he doesn't take the entirety of Ukraine. But in the meantime, the West, us and our allies here in the United States and our allies, right? We're emptying our war chests out. A lot of countries have sent their backup aircraft. A lot of countries have sent their backup tanks, right? Money, obviously. A lot of our munitions and long range missiles and things like this. We can't keep up with this. We're going to eventually run out of money. We're going to run out of the ability to make stuff fast enough to fight this war. Now, why is this important? Because we're gearing up, the United States and its allies, we are gearing up for a war with China. And so I'm going to say it this morning. Let me know if you agree or disagree, but I don't think Russia is the real threat here. I don't think what we're seeing in the Middle East is a real threat. I think this stuff exists so the West and its allies will empty their war chests and put us in a very bad strategic position as we go head to head with China. I don't think we're ready for China at this point. Y'all let me know what you think. God bless.